Hi, everybody. Welcome. If you're here, it's because you most likely saw a 5-minute intro. We talked about finding your guiding star. We wanted to dive a little bit deeper into a couple things here. We've got a few minutes we're going to run through. I'm going to also introduce, we've got two additional folks here from Whitfleet. We've got Chris Bryant from the advisory team, as well as Theron Kelso. So welcome, gents. We're just going to go through this deck with you and just dive deeper into specifically human-centered design and systems thinking. And then we're going to talk a little bit about when you use what and how to tie it all together. So before we go there, if you didn't watch the 5-minute intro and didn't press pause, I'm just going to go through the high-level content there, kind of like a last season's recap. So Theron, if you can go to the next slide, please. So in that recap, we talked about solving wicked problems, specifically problems that involve lots of different variables that you're trying to solve, and that you can't really sit in a room on your own and solve it yourself. So watch the little session there. It really talks about all the different caveats that you have to have when you're solving problems, and then there's a ton of methodologies you can use to do that. Next slide. We also talk about finding your guiding star. This is where you're rallying everyone around where you're going in general, so that you can get the consensus that you need to get on the road to where you're going. There's a lot of different methodologies also that we talk about that help you get there. How do you bring everyone together, disparate opinion, get them around the same problem, a challenge statement, if you will, so they can bring their own perspectives to look at the journey that everyone is going on and make sure everyone's needs are met. It's really important to take all these things into account. So the guiding star is really where you're going. The next star is what can we do next? What is the, they say the art of the possible. What can we do with what we have? And where do we go to keep the momentum moving forward? Next slide. So reaching escape velocity, we also talked about in that little preview. We talked a lot about NASA analogies with rockets. And we're going to dive a little bit deeper into escape velocity, specifically as we get into this human-centered design thinking. But specifically going through escape velocity is about getting out of the current orbit you're in or getting off the ground. Escape velocity is when you reach the point where you're no longer escaping the gravity that you're coming from and you're actually going into space or orbit. Think about where you're leaving as an organization for a particular methodology or an impetus, and you're trying to create change in your organization. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of momentum. If you lose momentum, you tend to fall back to where you were, and that can be both debilitating to the team and on morale. So it's important you have enough fuel to go where you're going, so you don't have any fallbacks. Next slide. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Chris Bryant on our team to talk a lot more about human-centered design, and then we'll listen to Theron Kelso, and then I'll come back and wrap things up with kind of next steps and how you tie this all together. Over to you, Chris.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate that. So going to chat with you a little bit about human-centered design and how we apply that as one of the many methodologies that we pull together to, as Ryan said, achieve that escape velocity, get out of the orbit we're in into the one we want to be in. Human-centered design is really leveraged when we know that we need to meaningfully address deeply human problems and or mature complex opportunities that are embedded with a fairly sophisticated, complex set of social, economic, financial, cultural, and or system constraints. So human-centered design provides this approach that allows us to identify and solve for problems creatively. We're super hyper laser focus on the human needs at the center of the problem or the opportunity. In human-centered design, it's not a one-size-fits-all. We flexibly, nimbly package together this suite of tactics, tools, and methods so that we can alter in a positive way mindsets and behaviors that enable us as a group with our clients to enable problem solvers to be creative, to collaborate, and to innovate towards really super cool, innovative ideas and strategies. Human-centered design is structured, but it is also flexible. And it's best applied when we want to navigate ill-defined, complex, ambiguous, or what Ryan called them earlier, wicked problems or opportunities, where there isn't typically a really super clear, discernible right answer. And of course, with human-centered design, we apply this when we're looking to go beyond incremental change. So we're really seeking new perspective on challenges and opportunities, that would allow us to achieve an overall 10x plus enhancement and overall impact. Darren, if you could go to the next slide, sir. So how does human-centered design work? So at a high level, first thing we need to do is develop consensus around the right problem to solve. Maybe the most complex or hardest problem with an extreme or very large level of effort and a super long lead time. Or we may decide that we want to attack a series of contributing issues or problems that represent super quick wins that allows the team to gain momentum, achieve success. So we talk a lot about what is the definition of success and how do we best get there. So once we're in agreement on the problem we really want to attack and focus in on, we start with a first-hand investigation that allows us to gain a crystal clear understanding of who we're problem solving for. So who are the people or the humans that are at the center of this, that are related to this issue, involved in this problem, living this opportunity, or missing out on this opportunity on a daily basis? What are those humans' pains, their needs, their desires, motivators? And what are the larger issues at play that wrap around the human condition that we're trying to solve for? So armed with the output from that firsthand investigation, we go through a fairly formal process of documenting and memorializing our understanding of the human condition through developing detailed personas and journey maps. So these look at the person, the environmental conditions, their emotional status, the tugs and the pushes and pulls that they're involved with on a daily basis as it relates to this opportunity or problem. With that documentation, we take that into an Imagine workshop. This workshop can be done live. We're people. We love to do it live. We've also done it quite effectively virtual since COVID. But in this Imagine workshop, we put together this combo of divergent thinking exercises and convergent. So on the divergent side, it's really pie in the sky, brainstorming, unrestrained, kind of crazy, no limits thinking to produce a lot of ideas. And then we do convergent exercises, which allows us to consolidate and synthesize around those ideas. We do some voting, and then we come up with the best ideas that we want to move forward with. So the workshop is all at once iterative, it's flexible, the activities are nimbly constructed on the fly, and certainly one size doesn't fit all. Some steps can be repeated, some are taken out altogether. We replace other exercises as we go through this. The goal of this workshop is that we're providing the problem solvers, our customer or client, with the opportunity to experiment, prototype, and then pilot solutions as the preface to a detailed design phase. Next slide, Darren. So, how do we keep a beneficiary focus through this human-centered design process? We know that data is important as well, and we believe that the real power comes from blending this intimate understanding of people that we've achieved through the Imagine workshop and the upfront discovery with data. And that leads us to the real truth. So armed with an empathy for the human, we ask ourselves questions like, what data is needed? What data might be currently available? Where's that data stored? How does the data flow? Is the data easy to access and analyze? And then we look to what kind of insights can we develop out of that data and that understanding of the human? But one of the first things we need to understand is, how reliable is the data? Is it reliable enough to inform insights that we can really sink our teeth into and put a stake in the ground on? So we need to look to how we streamline strategies for data interpretation so that we can derive real valid meaning that either validates or disputes our theories about the problem or the opportunity. And that means that there may be a need for data cleansing and transformation, again, all the while keeping the human at the center. Finally, we look to opportunities and solutions. And we start with what may be refining our beliefs around program theory. We should produce some aha moments and epiphanies where people step back and go, wow, I never really thought about it that way. Or I've been given a new lens and a new way to look at this opportunity or problem. That leads us to innovative and executable solutions, which are informed by empathy for the human and validated through data. So I'm going to turn it over to Theron now to talk a little bit more about the systems-minded approach.
Thanks, Chris. So systems thinking actually has a lot of similarities to the design thinking or the human-centered thinking. It's just that rather than keeping the person or the beneficiary at the center of the process, it's keeping the overall systems, the systemic issues at the center of the process. So systems thinking typically involves observing the system as a whole, looking at data, looking at patterns of behavior, looking at them across the board from an expert standpoint. So one of the key items is to go well beyond just a set of tools, and I'll talk about tools in a moment, but to go well beyond that and kind of instill the philosophy of systems thinking in all the participants. Just like in design thinking, it's really important to have a variety of people from a diverse set of backgrounds participate in the conversations around systems, the whole environment, and the conditions that created where the systems or the environment is now, and what changes might have to happen in order to see the changes that you want. Ideally, this is used to navigate complex and chronic problems that have a well-known history. There's one difference with design thinking. This is really focused on where the history of the environment, the solutions, the problem space is well known. Oftentimes, systems thinking is used frequently for incremental improvements rather than that tenfold increase in impact. It can be used for that large leap of change, but execution, which is one of the key items behind systems thinking, is always done at a very small incremental level. Just like I said previously, it's really important to engage a diverse set of expert stakeholders in systems thinking in order to develop a lot of the artifacts that go into systems thinking. You need to have a level of expertise that where you can actually contribute deeply into the problems. Artifacts like the one I'm showing here on the screen, a simple process flow diagram can get overwhelmingly complex for a new or a person that is not fully understanding the current environment. Tools, as well as artifacts like the one I'm showing here, are a key component of the systems thinking process. How do you document that? And then how do you turn around and share that with other people to share the information that you have? Some common ones that pretty much all engineers or IT folks, consultants understand: stakeholder maps, something that we do day in, day out, simply to get an understanding of who's involved and what their influence levels are. In the nonprofit world, you can think of the theory of change diagrams. It's an exciting topic in the nonprofit world of really understanding how to make an impact rather than just outputs. The key to bringing all those people together are really integrating the diverse perspectives. Think about a particular object like a Jenga tower. To really understand where the holes are and the gaps are in that tower, it takes looking at it from multiple perspectives in order to really understand where the weak points in a structure are to be able to pull out the next block. Ultimately, it's also about committing to that compelling vision. After you do that deep dive understanding of where the systems are, being able to pick and identify the right changes, and then ultimately to make those changes and test to see if they worked, are key to the process. Again, data, insights, opportunities, and solutions are places where systems thinking really excels. Again, much in the same way, what is the flow of information? How is it governed throughout the process? Some very common things in this. The opportunities are a little bit different from design thinking in that it really focuses on execution. What are the leverage points that we as an organization can have on this overall problem? What are the leverage points that our partner can have, and how can they be additive together? So opportunities look much different than in design thinking, but together they add up more. And Ryan's going to talk more about how design thinking and systems thinking weighs together.
Thanks, Theron. Appreciate that. We don't have a lot of time here, so we're just going to go through a couple things. There's a slide here, just on general how we're able to kind of put a wrapper around all of these things. We do pretty much all of the components that Chris and Theron had mentioned, but also all the detail work that it takes to actually have solutions not only be deployed but be successful long term. So from the technical aspect to the change management side. We go to the next slide. A lot of the things we do are specifically around creating lasting positive impact. And as we recap on the solving wicked problems and the human-centered design and the systems thinking, it's really about a couple different things. If you summarize, I see that human-centered design is really about empathizing with the organization or the individual or the process that you're trying to solve, making sure that it lands, finding the key pain points that they're going through. We talked about the personas and all the components of that, getting consensus around that, which can be winning over the most difficult people in the organization. We've seen some soft benefits of these processes where you have people that don't necessarily agree, but you put them in a room around a challenge statement, and you come out a few days later and they've seen the perspective of each other and they've come around. Some of the most rewarding things to watch is when an organization that has the mission that they need to go through just needs to bring people along. And so that's kind of the human-centered design process. And Chris had mentioned the Imagine sessions. And the systems thinking is really after you know where you're going, how are you going to get there? And there's different methodologies. If you're doing software development, you might use Agile to get there. But this is the iterative process of deconstructing the problem, figuring exactly how we're going to get there and moving down that road. And these come together in a way that gives you both the North Star, or the guiding star you're looking for, as well as all of the necessary accoutrement on your ship to get there. So this is a very brief overview. We do want to open the discussion if you're interested, talk more. We've got a lot of organizations we work with related to this. We just appreciate your time here today. Chris, Theron, I'm just going to open it back to you if you have any other thoughts or comments to mention, and we'll wrap it up.
I think just, Ryan, it's love the work we do, and hopefully that's come across in today's brief presentation. At Whipley, we're all about impact, and we're successful when you're doing the best job serving your beneficiaries. And these strategies, when skillfully pulled together, really provides that secret sauce that allows us to help folks like you. So we wish you the best of luck, and look forward to the opportunity to meet with you sometime.
Absolutely. And just last thing, I want to thank everybody for listening in, and we're looking forward to the conversations. You can find our email addresses on the front of the slide deck or at the beginning of the recording. Please feel free to reach out and start the conversation.
All right. Thanks, everybody.